What's good, YouTube? It's your boy in Soundcraft Studios here, and welcome back to another review video. Today I'm going to be reviewing Splatoon 2. Pretty much, well, my favorite game of all time, so expect a perfect score here. But before we start this review, make sure to like this video and subscribe if you guys want to see more gaming reviews from me. And let me know in the comment section, do you agree with this review or not? Let me know in the comments below. And also, make sure to check out my DeviantArt page. I post artwork on there somewhat frequently. I've got like 30 of them up, 30 deviations up, so I highly recommend checking that out. And let's hop into this review. So first we'll talk about the presentation of the game, and as you guys can see, it looks phenomenal. The game's graphics are slightly better than the first game in a few ways, only if you look really close. And honestly, it just looks really cool. But that's just scratching the surface, because when you dig into Splatoon 2 a little bit more, you can learn that, well, it's just got a really good vibe. First of all, it's got that really good 90s vibe that you can see, and in the paint, actually, and well, yeah, that's what it is. The ink that you pretty much shoot is pretty much paint. In the single player campaign, it's a bit more glittery, but, and I don't know why that's not in the multiplayer, but still though, I mean, look at what I'm showing you guys. That's a lot of detail. And as for display, it really isn't that bad. Basically, the game runs at 1080p, 60 frames per second all the time. And I mean all the damn time, so yeah, pretty much really good in that environment. Although the resolution may be a bit lower when you're playing undocked. I'm not entirely sure on that, but really, the game runs pretty good. And it's never going to get super choppy or anything like that. Don't worry about that. So next, let's go over the gameplay. Now, as you guys can see, the gameplay is very similar to the first game. The gameplay is very similar. Basically, you're in a turf war. You have to claim your turf. And that's really all there really is to it. Similar mechanics to the first game, but there is a difference this time. This time, besides using the gamepad to squid jump, this time you actually use, well, a controller. And this time, by pressing the X button, you can actually bring up this little map. But we'll get to that later, once we talk about controls. But really, that's all there really is for gameplay, considering the gameplay is exactly like the first game. There are a few differences, though, such as the fact that there are these gun things. When you press the B button and roll over, you can do a little dodge thing, kind of like in Legend of Zelda. And you can really be good used for like something like that. Though you most of the time will get splatted, just like that. And there's really all to the gameplay. Basically, you can change it to squid, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. Basically, however, the gameplay can sometimes change depending on the weapon you use. There are many types of weapons in Splatoon 2, but the ones that you absolutely need to know about are the normal ink guns, the rollers, the snipers, the sloshers, the brushes, and new to the game, the brushes, the dualies, and I believe the squeezers might be also a new addition. So in the weapon category, it is a little bit more barren, considering it doesn't have exactly as many new weapons as there should have been, but still, it's not a bad thing per se, because the weapons are already easy enough to control anyways. My favorite weapon has to be the Crack-On Splat Roller. If there's one weapon I use all the time in this game, it is usually the Crack-On Splat Roller. And there's the idea. And there's also a bunch of supers you can use as well. basically you can use, and they're all new, so none of them from the first game. One of them allows you to use an inkjet, kind of like the Flood Pack from Super Mario Sunshine. A Splashdown, which basically can be used to completely annihilate anyone there, or anything for that matter. A Stingray that can basically get players from behind walls and from a far distance. And there's also Tin Missiles, which basically can which basically shoot out a bunch of homing missiles on enemies. And there's also a few other ones like the Bubble Blower, which basically blows big bubble things. I don't know. And that's really it for supers. And one thing that they improves in the game is basically the abilities. Now, I've never been super big into abilities in the game. However, but I've heard that to get like perfect abilities on like gear, it usually takes forever to do in the first game. And that's why in this game they kind of improves it a little bit. Still, it does take time, so don't really expect like something super easy to get perfect like clothing for all your clothing. It still takes a while. You still gotta have enough. You still gotta have enough of the whatever they are, the little super sea snail things. You still gotta have those, and you still gotta have a heck of a lot of money if you want to deposit, or if you want to like insert a specific ability to a specific piece of clothing, because you can do that, but it's a lot of money. So unless you're rich as heck, go for it. Otherwise, well, yeah. Next, let's go over the story. Now, unfortunately, there really isn't much story to this game. Basically, it's a lot more shallow with lore. Basically, the main story in this single-player campaign is that basically the Great Zapfish has gone missing again, much like a princess that always gets missing. You know what I mean. But the twist is that you actually are recruited by Marie, one of the Squid Sisters, and she sends you out to save the Great Zapfish, along with all these other all these other smaller little Zapfish. But not only that, she also wants to be able to rescue her cousin Callie, who's basically been kidnapped by the Octarian forces, and basically becomes a brand new leader. And that's really all there is. There are scrolls in this game, much like the first game, but unfortunately, unlike the previous game, the scrolls really aren't that big in the game. Considering in this game, it's a lot more shallow. Like, it's a lot more shallow. Nintendo really should have taken the opportunity to go a bit further into the lore of the game. They should have maybe put more questions in there. But that's what I would say if it wasn't for the fact that we are going to be getting an Octo Expansion. But more on that later. And yeah, that's really it for story. Now let's talk about content. Now, Splatoon 2, content-wise, is not very different from the first games. You've got your main turf wars that you can play, the ranked battles, with the new addition, at least at the time of recording this video, Clan Blitz. There's also a much bigger mode called Salmon Run, which basically is a zombies-like mode in the game for the game. And it is a hell of a lot of fun, but the only problem is you can only play it at specific times, which is a little bit annoying. But it is a lot of fun. It's essentially a zombie mode where basically you have to not only survive, but meet your quota of eggs. And it's the real thing that makes this game stand out from the first game. Otherwise, there really wouldn't be much, truth be told, because everything else is kind of the same. Also new to this game, you can also play offline using more Nintendo Switches. You can play Turf War, ranked battles, and Salmon Run offline using other Nintendo Switches locally nearby. But here's where I have to put a huge strike to this game, because although this game is phenomenal, there is one big flaw with this game, And Nintendo, I swear to God, I hope you are watching this. Not including the ability to play offline Turf War, offline Ranked Battle, and offline Salmon Run matches by yourself, it's not there. So basically, if you don't have internet and there's not another kid that has a Nintendo Switch and Splatoon 2 and likes the game as much as you do, well, it's one hell of a time. You're not really going to be able to play the game that much. And there is a single-player campaign, but once again, we'll go back to that. And it's honestly such a big disappointment. With the first game, I understand. I still feel like in the first game, they should have still had offline computer players matches. But at least there, it made some sense considering, well, the internet was free and it was on a home console. It made sense, but this is Nintendo Switch we're talking about. We're talking about a handheld console as well. So they really could at least get a mode in there. It wouldn't even have to be that hard. You can put it in the shoal or something like that. I know I would play this game a whole lot more. Heck, if they actually just added that in like an expansion or an update or something like that, well, I'd play the game all the time, and I wouldn't even be complaining about anything in this game. But alas, probably not. At least not until the online service comes out, when you might do it. Only time will tell, I suppose. Then there's also the single-player campaign, which you're seeing gameplay of right now. The campaign, while it does seem a little bit rushed compared to the first game, it could have been a bit better, but unfortunately it was kind of put together pretty fast. Though this might be for the better considering, well, we got Splatoon quicker on Switch, so probably for the better. And plus, it actually isn't a pretty bad... It actually is a pretty good improvement over the first game's campaign. First of all is weapon variety. Now the first game did have weapon variety, but you had to have amiibo and all that stuff, and it doesn't count, does it? In this game, you're able to use the hero shot, the hero roller, the hero charger, the hero dualies, the hero umbrella, the hero splatling, the hero blaster, the hero slosher, and the hero brush. That is a hell of a lot of weapons. And what this basically means is that 100%ing the single player campaign takes a lot more time, since basically if you're going to want 100% the game, basically your playtime on the single player campaign will like multiply by like 9. And once you beat every single stage with a specific weapon, you will be able to unlock it in the multiplayer, which is not too bad. I actually have all of the weapons unlocked for the multiplayer, so yeah, there's that. And there's also I'm forgetting something out, aren't I don't write many scripts for these reviews, but yeah. And there's oh yeah, single player stuff, my bad. Another improvement off of the first game is that the hub worlds are actually a lot more big and actually require some actual exploring to actually, well, get around. Although I will admit the last hub world is a bit of a pain in the butt, it's not the biggest deal. And plus, I feel that the bosses in this game are actually way better than the ones we got in the first game. Not to say the ones in the first game are bad, but I feel like these ones, like the ones in this game, are a lot more memorable. I mean, hell, you fight an oven in one of them. Like, there's some creativity. Unlike fighting a nozzle in the first game. Which is stupid. Also, maybe this may be a bit of speculation, but I personally feel that another improvement is that I feel like the single-player campaign in this game is a little bit more challenging than that of the first game. The first game's campaign was very, very, very easy. And yet that was one of the flaws with it. But I still feel that this campaign is actually a lot more difficult. And lengthwise, it's not much longer than the first games. Unless you're counting 100%ing, where in that case, well, this game wins. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is for single player content. Though there is one thing about this game that I'm missing, and that is the Octo Expansion. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to talk about the Octo Expansion yet because, as of right now, it has not been released yet. No, hell, we haven't even heard of a launch date yet. All we've heard of is summer 2018. Only a few more days to go until we'll probably learn some more news about it. So definitely be expecting another Splatoon 2 review where I'm going to just review the expansion. You can buy it on the eShop right now. It's only $20, I believe. And if you buy it now, you can actually unlock some Octo themed headgear or clothes or whatever in the main game. And I will admit $20 is a bit hefty. I mean, it's got to be a big enough expansion, but it's like, it kind of is a bit forgiving considering at least they've given us all this DLC. Like in Splatoon 1, they gave us all free DLC. Splatoon 2, they gave us all this free DLC, but like for the first time they make an actual like more substantial like single player mode and like sell for money. And they can do whatever they want. And honestly, even though I do feel $20 is a little bit much, I highly recommend people who like to play Splatoon 2 and really like the single player campaign, try it out. I think you should buy it. It's worth the money. And that pretty much wraps it up, except for a few more things. First of all, controls. Basically, I'm using a Pro controller. The left stick moves you around. There is motion controls, but you can choose to turn it off if you prefer. The R stick moves you around. The ZL button allows you to go into squid form. The ZR button will allow you to use your weapon. The R button will allow you to use your bomb or whatever your sub weapon is, whatever it is. The B button is to jump. The X button is to bring up the menu screen. And the Y button is to reset the camera. And the D-pad can also be used in the multiplayer for certain actions, such as like calling in Salmon Run or something like that. And yeah, that's really all there is for controls. And then the last thing to really talk about is the music. And like the first game, the music is really upbeat and catchy. While I did feel the single player campaign's music wasn't as good as it could have been, it wasn't terrible. Hell, the multiplayer music is still really good. And the Octo Expansion songs sound pretty damn good. So, in the music department, it really isn't too bad. It's pretty good. And yeah, I think we finally reached the end of the review. This was one hell of a review. All in all, this is a phenomenal game, though there are a few flaws. Really, the whole offline thing. Please, Nintendo, do it! Probably they'll never do it, but who knows? Probably not. But I give Splatoon 2 a easy 10 out of 10 review. And that's pretty much all there is for this. So thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you guys want to see more gaming reviews. Let me know if you guys agree with this review, and let me know if you did agree with it or not. And be sure to check out the DeviantArt page where I do post a lot of Splatoon fan art. So if you're crazy with Splatoon like I am, well, I highly recommend checking it out. I do post other art on there besides Splatoon, but for the most part, it's Splatoon. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Take care.